Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to Liberty's #1 podcast. Yup, the Liberties. Yup, the flats.
Yup, the flats.
Yup, the flats. On the show today, I'm joined by Ciarán McMahon. Ciarán, what's the crack?
Hello there, Matt. Good to see you.
I am delighted to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is intriguing. I've only seen this backdrop on your videos and was like, I always expected it to be a very intimate little box, but
It's smoke and mirrors, isn't it?
yeah, I heard the doors lock on the way in, and so 3 blinks for help. Yeah.
Code. Guys, I've asked Ciarán to come on. Ciarán is the facilitator course design. You've designed a course called You Talk Funny. It's a stand-up comedy workshop that I did. It's a 6-week course. Did I get it right?
Yeah. No, you nailed it. Yeah. Not only that, but Matt did the course and you did really well. I was like, the journey you went on during that course was why I do these workshops. It was literally to go, oh my God, it's a terrible idea. Okay, I'll do it. And it's basically like whitewater rafting, only you don't drown. Maybe.
Metaphorically, you kind of do and you don't. You know what? I thought it'd be a great idea to get Ciarán on because like when I do any kind of workshop, I look at it from a helicopter view. People get lost in, it's just a stand-up comedy. You do a show at the end, but there's just so much more going on. The reason I did it was I wanted to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I wanted to learn how to play more because I thought, this would be like playing. This is like fucking open heart surgery, open brain surgery.
Yeah.
And then I just watched the work that Ciarán done, which was phenomenal. It's a 6-week course. What he gives, the content, his own personal input to it, to the students. He's contactable to set people. I thought, let's have a talk about this.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come up? I'll do a stand-up comedy workshop. Where did that come from?
Well, I started about 20 years ago. I was the door person in my brother's comedy club with Tony Ferns.
Right. Tony from around the road.
Tony from around the block. He's like Jenny from the block, only it's Tony from the block. And so my brother and Tony met at an improv workshop in the Cat Laughs comedy festival.
Right.
And so they went, let's do improv. So they started doing improv, and then they just found a venue to do improv in.
Right.
And so then my brother, after a year or two, said, look, we need a door person. So I became the door person. Then my brother started doing stand-up, travelling around the country, introducing acts and stuff like that. He was hosting and he was doing stand-up and stuff like that. So he was saying, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a brand new guy. Give him a round of applause. He's brand new. This is his first or second gig, Tommy Tiernan. Like, that's the era we're talking about, like 20 plus years ago, right?
Wow.
And, and then my brother would come out going, he was all right for a Galway agent, wasn't he? Kind of thing, Meanwhile, Tony is back running the improv show every week, which was a full-time show. So they said, look, your brother's busy, and seeing as he's funny, you must be funny too. Well, they never were so disappointed. Clearly, it's comedy. Funny doesn't run in families. You don't just get it.
Who's the funny one out of your family?
It's not me. It's not me at all. But I mean, I'm in this for the addictive quality to it. There's something ridiculously addictive about comedy, and that the way I describe it is that if someone comes up to me and says, "God, I had an awful gig," and I went, "Right, so you're never doing it again?" "Oh no, I'm doing it again."
Oh, right.
And I'm like, "Why are you doing it again?" And I would say the best example is, it's a bit like an argument. That you always think of the good things to say after the argument. When you're walking down the street going,
and you gotta go back and say that.
And I'll always, and if I thought of saying this, and that's to me the buzz, that like, if someone does this and they get a buzz out of it, and of course the minute you're up there you might forget one or two things, but you always want to have another go at it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, that even if you get a great gig, well, that just spurs you on to do 10 more to get another great gig, So I used to say every second gig was awful,
Right.
But at this stage, it's more like every 10th gig is good. But I still do it, So to me, it was about, I started teaching improv, and I found improv to be really difficult to teach.
Right.
Because some people are just really spontaneous and reactive, and other people just like a structure and a format. I like a beginning, middle, and end. So weirdly, I was at the end of my improv class. They said, I said, now you're going to be improvers. They said, we never wanted to be improvers, but now I was teaching stand-up comedy. And I said, teach stand-up comedy. Only the most egotistical, arrogant, we give you 100 quid a head. No problem. So I started teaching stand-up, and I hadn't done too much stand-up, but I'd been on stage lots of times, and I knew how to get an audience on side, because I'd be hosting the improv show. So I'd have to get an audience happy, comfortable, and willing to throw up loads of suggestions all night. So you have to be at a level of comfort and connection with an audience before they'll voluntarily give you information.
Right.
Most people fold their arms in Ireland and go, all right, funny man.
Yeah.
Let me hear you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a barrier where you're trying to break down that barrier immediately and make them the funny ones, you know.
I had that when I was doing a talk in a school in Tala.
Yeah.
And I had 90 fifth year students. And I asked them a question, trying to get them on side. And 90 of them stonewalled me.
Oh yeah, and you're just there.
I could just see tumbleweeds just rocking boy. I was like, oh Jesus.
And they're left out there. They hung you out to dry.
Hung me by the bollocks.
I used to do this work, like I used to do outreach kind of work in schools around the country. And I went into this one school in Limerick, and it was an all-boys school, and the principal ran it like an Old Testament God, you know. You couldn't make any mistakes or do any wrongs, or you'd be punished to an inch of your life. So it was like a military school almost, right? Yeah. And we had to go in and introduce ourselves in the morning in front of the whole year of 5th and 6th years, you know. Yeah. And I mean, I'm 5'6", on a good day 5'7", right, and on my passport, right? But these guys are giant countrymen with shovels for hands who play GAA, have no necks, are built like brick shithouses. And I have to walk out in front of all of them, and I go, oh my God, exactly that. They're going to stonewall me. They're going to say, who's this Aaron jumper wearing Muppet from Dublin with his floppy hair coming down here to Shannon or wherever it was, telling us what to do. And I went, I have 3 seconds to get this whole year on side. And now we're talking about testosterone. I can never say that word because I don't have much of it. And it's like, you know, just that alpha male stuff. Yeah. And this is now 20 plus years ago. Yeah. So I went out and went, hi guys, we're going to have a fabulous day. Some of you are going to be in my group. So I want all the boys who'd love to be in my group to be in this corner over here. Now I won't ask you yet, but I know there's definitely some boys who'd love to be in my group, right? Oh, and I took the biggest alpha bully boy, top of the food chain guy.
Apex predator.
Yeah, and I went over and I sat in his lap, like this one, right? Sat in his lap and started running my fingers through his hair. And there was a moment where this guy, you know, it was fight or flight. He was going to pull my head off, right? And there was just, the whole school is in shock at me doing this to your man. And your man has that moment of like, I could just pick him up like King Kong and bounce him off the ground. But the moment happened where he saw everybody looking at him, and he was mortified and he was embarrassed and he went bright red, and I kind of stood up and said, well, I'll definitely see you later. And I walked into the middle and then I went, how are you? Look, I don't worry. I said, I'm not gay. And I said, the weird thing is, it doesn't matter if you are or not. I mean, he enjoyed it. You know? So I said, look, we're going to have a bit of crack. Thanks a million, lads. I'll talk to you later. Right?
Deadly.
But that
was a risky one.
Either way. That could have gone either way. And they did not, they were like a dog watching a tennis match on the telly. They were like, They didn't know what, and I realised that it's that first second or two that defines the connection. Always.
What did you say on the course? The first 12 seconds, the first 12 inches, the first... What was that thing? I don't know. What do you see? What do you see? What do you hear? Did you say that? Or did you just make that fucking shit up? Do you make this up as you go along?
I do. And see, this is the thing. I've really desperately tried to make this shit up. right?
You can tell.
Yeah. Like, not to read loads of textbooks and have all the tropes and the classic kind of terminology,
Okay.
but really write from my own experience of
Okay.
what it's like and that moment when you go up there. So
Well, that's what I like.
there's a personal investment in this, and so I don't have any of the terms, and I didn't know what like the common stand-up language is, like a tag and a callback and all these phrases.
Yeah.
But I knew what they were intuitively from being on stage. So,
Okay.
so the first 4 seconds, I call it, is like, well, the first thing is they hear your name before they see you. Next thing, they see your walk.
Yeah.
The third thing is when you stand in front of them. And the fourth thing is when you open your mouth. So those 4 seconds, or those 4 things happen very quickly. And they've usually decided by then whether they're going to listen to you or not.
Yeah.
And the last deciding moment is when you say hello. Because they've already made their opinion up. So that's how long you have to make a connection.
Yeah.
So if you're ready, like a boxer behind the curtain, and the announcement is made, you come out bouncing. They go, well, number 1, this guy's up for it. Number 2, here's Rocky. And then when Rocky speaks, yo, Adrian! Then you go, right, I'm in. You know,
Right.
so there's a bounce in. You can't just go, hello, you know. So there's all that kind of connectivity that happens that we like. As I said before, it's like if you approach me at a bus stop, I jump off the platform.
You didn't say I get in me van. You were you're in that fucking thing.
Whereas now, I think you would have thought about that if you approached me at a bus stop or at a, like a train station, the dart station or whatever. You go, sorry, excuse me, and you'd approach me from a good distance.
Yeah.
I'd hope,
Yeah.
you know? And you know what I mean? So it's all about that kind of consideration of how you would make that connection with other people.
Is it an unconscious social intelligence?
I'd say it is. I've been working for years on kind of making connections with people. You know,
Like it's a social. Like you got it. You already knew you knew your audience going down to Limerick. These are adolescents. They're hard.
no, I only knew that when I walked in the door and read the room and went.
Okay, well then you realise straight away.
Yeah.
You didn't go in there. Well, this is the way I do it, and I'm just gonna do it. You realise that ain't gonna work. Like you coming into the flats and being in a certain way, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna fly. So that takes a bit of social and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, but it's also even the intelligence enough to know I may not know everything in this situation. And I think this is what I found. There's 2 kinds of people that do this workshop. Well, there's many different kinds. But
Yeah, we'll talk
if
about
there was
that.
2 general categories, there's ones who are very determined to get into comedy, and the very, very clever ones don't just say, I can do that and come up and do it. They go, I must talk to someone who's been doing this for years and get the best version of it so that when I start, I've got a few of the skills. And there's other people who just start, and that's fair enough. Get up and start doing comedy, right? And then there's other people who just want to do it once and just want to, chance their arm. But they also, the best way to describe it is, if you're jumping out of a plane, do you listen to the instructor before you jump? I'm just saying, you can just jump out of a plane,
Yeah.
and there's probably a half-hour bit of instruction before you get in the plane and they throw you out.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the best listening you're ever going to do in your life, is listen to the fella to say, teach you how to land, because if your parachute doesn't open, it doesn't matter, But there's still that, you listen to how you bend your knees as if that's going to save you if you fall out of a plane, but you still listen to that. So there's it's practical to know where the exits are. That's the first thing. And the other one is like, if I was to do this, is there anything that I need to know? So as you say, if I'm walking into the flats,
Yeah.
I'd want an introduction from you. I'd want certainly you to meet me, but I'd also know that I don't know how to carry myself walking through the flats, and I think it'd be really good if you told me how do I do that,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, So
Yeah.
some people are practical going, I'd love to know this, but I'd never have the courage. Well then, I said, normally in the notes or the first email I send you, it's like, look, you've done the hardest bit is deciding.
Yeah.
The rest is my job to make you feel comfortable enough to think this is a good idea. You know? And it isn't. It's a stupid idea.
Is it though?
You have to be crazy to do this. It's silly. It's fun. It'll blow your skirt up, right? That's the point of it. And usually anybody who does it, like Matthew, posh Matthew we'll call him, right?
Yeah.
From Wicklow, the
Yeah,
poshest part of Wicklow.
He had one of his jokes is incredible. The one where because I'm all into exposure therapy, as you know, I love doing things that put me in the uncomfortable. And he talked about the serial killers in the bush.
Yeah.
If you think a serial killer is gonna get you, go into the bush. Because it's hard. There's
the probability of 2 serial killers
in the bush.
In one bush.
Oh, that's my favourite guy.
And he was like, be the serial killer.
Be the serial killer. Yeah.
Be the thing you fear, basically.
Yeah. So what were you saying? Sorry, I talked over you.
Yeah, so he was somebody that I consider to be quite nervous, and it emerged over the course of 6 weeks that by the time he did that gig, I put him on first that night.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
He was so polished. But he had that natural friendly charm that he had in the beginning.
He's likeable.
That oozed onto the stage like we were standing on a tube of toothpaste.
Yeah.
Whereas in the beginning, he was very nervous and very awkward, and there was no way you'd put money on him to go up on stage and do a gig.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
And the whole point for him was, just like you said, exposure therapy. He'd been in stopgap animation and did a master's for 2 years. He spent 2 years making 5 seconds of a movie. Right? And I told him this, and my brother said, Jesus, how long is it going to take him to do the course? Because if it took him 2 years to do 5 seconds, so how long is it going to take him to do 5 minutes of material, you know?
Yeah.
But he had just been so focused, a bit like our Doctor of Science who was in the course, on tiny detail. And whereas really you're bringing your whole personality to this. So weirdly, I have to try and instill the idea that it's your personality that's going to save you.
Yeah.
And then give you the tools that ultimately you leave in the toolbox. And you have to go up without your tools and go, hi guys, at the end. Do you know, to me, this is what I was curious about. You know, you're saying this the kind of thing that makes you uncomfortable. Weirdly, public speaking and confidence and all those things, they don't seem to faze you, right? And I've had people in the groups before that they didn't have any issue with public speaking or confidence or anything else. But this is a different medium because you're expected to be funny and you're this and you're that or whatever. But to me, I was curious about was, did I manage to bring you in with giving you enough tools and out that you could still enjoy yourself by the time you get on stage? Yeah. That's, to me, the full circle. And some people may not make that full circle to be able to enjoy themselves on stage. You know, there has to be all the you have to give them skills, attitude, and approach. You know, method. But then also, you have to keep slapping people on the back on, and don't forget, you have to be having the crack, you know. So, you know, that's the question. Weirdly, everybody seemed to say, I felt very prepared for that. Prepared for that 5-minute stand-up game.
If anything, there was information overload. There was so much. He gave so much. You couldn't be saying, we didn't get enough information, or you didn't get enough prep, or you were missing it, and that was definitely not the case.
Right.
My greatest difficulty was having the crack and having to go up, because I was dancing between public speaking, professional speaking, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now I'm getting up there to have the crack, slagging, whatever. And I just found it so difficult because I'm scripty script. I learn stuff and I'm really like, this is but this was me up there then trying to riff. And
what would you prefer? If I had 8 maths on the course, would you just like to be thrown into the deep end every week and have the crack, or would you prefer the theory and the approach?
No,
and the prep?
I wouldn't change it. No, that was good.
Right.
100% it was.
See, because the only way I like learning is to be thrown in the deep end. So my best version of my course is the first night you walk in, there's an audience there, and they're like, ladies and gentlemen, it's Matt Burke, and you're literally on.
Really?
That's week one. That's the way I do it. But I realised nobody learns the same way.
Well, then you must have got thrown into the canal as a kid to
Oh,
learn how to
Jesus.
swim.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that
Boom,
whole,
get
like,
the fuck
in you
in.
get, like,
Fuck,
yeah.
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like, I mean, I remember, like, when I learned, like, I did a degree, and the first thing I had to teach was secondary school, and the guy...
What you do a degree in?
Oh, jeez, that's another story, but it's theology and philosophy.
What?
Yeah. Like, I don't tell anyone. That's just weird. Yeah. I did. Because I tried to do everything else for years.
Theology?
I was a bingo caller. I was a preschool teacher. I studied architecture. And I
You were
came
doing
out the
tours
other-
as well.
I was a tour guide for years as well, yeah. And I was like, I tried everything, and I went, Jesus Christ, if I just study theology and philosophy, I can find out the meaning of life, man.
As he holds
And then I
Jesus
can-
by the bollocks.
And then I can just do that, you know? Because if it's not Jesus,
Hanuman.
it's him. And if it's not him, it could be Ganesh. Or I could shave my head
Saint Anthony.
with St. Anthony. Or who's that?
That was a green Avengerian angel that you can buy at the Liberty Market. Liberty, mind your little self-stall. You up the flats. There's always a
Product
sell.
placement, shaboof. Yeah, so I just thought if I study philosophy, I'll learn the meaning of life, and then I can do that, because I really don't know where to begin. And I thought, just like the stand-up workshop, supposing I asked a few people who've done this before, what is the best way to do it? And I was saying to you just before we started, when you were setting up all the lights and locking the doors, that like I get so annoyed when I don't know something. And when I discover or learn something,
Why do you blame Jesus?
well, if I don't blame Jesus, I blame you. I blame anyone rather than myself for not knowing this.
Right.
So I have a mad hunger to learn things. And the minute I learn something, especially about myself, then I get so annoyed that I didn't know this yesterday, or I didn't know it last week, or nobody told me, or I blame my parents because they didn't tell me. So I have a great desire for knowledge and self-improvement and self-development and all that. And when I know something, the next reaction is, once I can assimilate it and go, oh my God, how did I spend so long without knowing this? The next thing, and I think the natural thing is, there's this shit called pay it forward.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I'm talking about pay it backwards. Right, to the guy I was yesterday,
Yeah.
I have to hand that knowledge back to someone behind me
Yeah.
as quick as I can assimilate it, to make their life a bit easier, to make their route easier.
Right.
That is the simple purpose of humanity, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like, we have to send clowns like us over the hill first, and then we go, Jesus, bullets hurt. You know, that was World War One. Then we developed it. You know, but it's like, we have a duty to ourselves and everybody else behind us to pass the knowledge we learn on, you know? So to me, it's like, if I've learned anything, number one, I really would welcome anyone helping me out, because I'm still sort of trying to swim up a waterfall.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Yeah, so equally though, the minute I know something, I think there's a duty to pay it backwards, right? I'm going, hand that back to... So if I've done stand-up and you haven't,
Yeah.
Jesus, I can definitely tell you a couple of things about this that might help, you know, and give you a bit of headspace. But when it comes to everything else, I'm just as absolutely clueless as the next person about what they're doing and how to figure things out. So to me, that's always been the thing. So a lot of people, like, my introduction on stage is like, yeah, those who can do, those who can't do stand-up, those who can't do stand-up, teach stand-up. and you know, and those who can't teach stand-up, host this workshop, you know.
Yeah.
But really, I'm trying to say that I'd say I'd probably be 75-80% teacher, 20% comedian, right, if I was to break it down.
Yeah.
Because to me, I love teaching, and teaching is probably one of the greatest compliments and the greatest challenges, because I thought, well, if I've studied theology and philosophy and I could teach that, wasn't very good at it, but if I could teach that, I thought, what could be harder than teaching theology and philosophy, and that's comedy.
Yeah.
And I went, you really have to know your onions before you can teach anything. Yeah. So a lot of comedians had seen me doing workshops and they say, oh, we'll do a stand-up comedy workshop. But they're comedians.
Yeah.
So when they're, as comedians, come in and start teaching, like I did a trainer course, and that's when I realised that, you know, there's 8 or more different ways of learning. Yeah. So some people learn by doing, some people learn by theorising about
auditory, kinesthetic, visual learners. I
mean, so that means all those people that were annoying me with questions at the end of the workshop weren't just annoying pricks. I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought they were just putting this out to annoy me. But they were just asking me of a way to learn and how they need to learn. So that's when I said, right, my version is trauma on the stage the first night of the workshop. That could leave you in trauma.
I do that though.
But you would. I'd love it. And then I go, Jesus, man, what are we doing next week? What are we doing, heroin?
But you know, again, but like, look at like Matt from Longford. Remember the first week
he was ready to go. He was ready to
I wish we
get
could have
up there.
contained that. I wish you could have saved that and gave that on the night, because that was the best. I just loved it. It was pure, unadulterated madness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you remember I had special guests coming in, and Shannon was one of them. Shannon Bass O'Gall. Big up to Shannon. Whoop, whoop.
Up to Shannon.
Up to Shannon. And like Shannon, we're outside having a smoke after he kind of met the celebrities that were going to do their show. And, you know, we were just kicking around, and he goes, they're a good bunch. They've got loads of material up there. He said, if anything, they just need to slow down and indulge them some of the
that's
material.
when he came and watched them. I wasn't there that night.
Yeah. So when he came in at the end, he'd been at the start, said hello, and then the following thing was like he came in towards the end, and he goes, Jesus, the volume of material these guys have. And he slowed posh Matthew down into developing that kind of whole world that he lived in about being a psycho killer in a bush and thinking evolution happened in one lifetime.
Not deadly.
Brilliant. My parents had a big bang. Loved that. So, but he said about Matt Lee from Longford, he says, we were kicking everybody around, and he just went, and I said, what about Longford, Matt? And he went, I'll just let him run.
Let him run.
It was almost like Matt was released from Longford on some kind of prison exchange.
I loved him.
And he came out of the boxes, fucking full sprint like a greyhound.
He doesn't work well with script. He makes script. I don't think.
No, and see,
after for Batman,
whereas I could have whole classes of Matts.
Yeah.
But I found that everybody, this particular workshop, there was a greater volume of people who wanted to learn in a structured approach.
And I think you did that so well. You met people where they're at. And I just want to touch on something that I think I recognised in it. There's a saying, compassion. Compassion, the definition for compassion is to identify suffering in others and want to alleviate it. Right? So, although this is going to sound mental, because you're always trying to make people suffer and putting them on stand-up comedy, you recognise, and that's why I say you do what you do, similar to what I do. You're out to help people. Yeah. You notice that people may struggle behind you and you hand it back. And I found that was one of the best thing about the courses, that you are very compassionate and you are helpful to all, even the people that were an absolute pain in the hole, which they're gifts, right? I call them gifts, other people call it pain in the hole.
Oh, the gifts.
They're everywhere. But you are as tolerant and compassionate to them as anyone. Do you know what I mean? And I think you handled, when it comes to learning styles, and we had a strange group. I remember telling people, going, no disrespect, this is not a judgment, this is just an observation, and I'm one of those strange fuckers, right?
They were very odd.
Yeah, and humans are very odd. When you watch humans the way I watch humans, we're bonkers, and I'm admitting it. But you handle it well. What's it like to manage, like, scientists, me from the flats, but I do public speaking and I'm a dancing between a professional and a fucking drug dealer still. And then you had Matt, Matt, Posh Matt and Longford Matt, and then you had Raisha and Miriam, and what was that like? And they're only the microcosm, the macrocosm. You've got them courses forever.
Oh, look, I mean, like, you would never see these people in an ATM queue. You'd never see anywhere. Like, these are people that are drawn from literally every walk of society. I was saying I probably know enough people after teaching this for nearly 15 years to do an Ocean's 11 bank job. You know what I mean? Because I'd know someone from somewhere that could be all of those things. Whatever I need, if it's an Asian that fits in a suitcase, I can probably find you, you know. But when you put those people, that ramshackle cross-section of, you know, tall, short, you know, everything, like, you're talking body type, you're talking geographical type, you're talking class type, social status, financial, intellectual, you name it. There's such a different cross section across the board in every one of those workshops, and to me that makes the glue. You know, that this horse factory turns into stand up, because if I have to do my material about where I come from in Longford to an Asian girl who's never heard of Longford, never seen it, but knows poverty, of spirit or otherwise, desolation or beauty, your communication is forced to be through the 6 people that you have in front of you. And if they come from different walks, all the more reason for you to be a better communicator so that all of them get it. So it's a microcosm of those people becoming the world when you speak. So that each one of those people at the course, I was saying, so there's going to be 10 Matt from the Flats in the audience. There's going to be 10 people from America in the audience. There's going to be 10 posh people from Wicklow. There's going to be 10 scientists. So how does your material appeal to all the people if there was 10 representatives of their kind? Suddenly you have to find a medium to speak to everyone. And so the courses, as varied as they are, God, there are gifts during those years. And I've had mutinies in some fucking courses, you know?
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, like, there was one time I was 3 weeks into a 6-week workshop, right? And I had this guy, I shit you not, he was Indonesian Dutch, right? So he had this mixture of this amazing kind of olive toned tan skin with the blonde blue eyes of an Aryan, right? So he ended up being this really stunning looking guy, right? Like fucking mermaid shit, right? Something that you don't see every day. So when he'd be on Tinder, because of course he'd be on Tinder, like he's a stunner, right? Girls would ask him to send them a selfie because they didn't believe him because nobody's that pretty, right? That's how pretty this guy was, right?
I get that all the time.
Yeah, I get it too. It's like, you know, I knew his pain. I can see his suffering, man. And I went, I know what it's like for you.
Yeah, I feel
I did that too, you know. You're beating them away with sticks. I get it, you know. And cut to, like, you know, people from North, South, East and West all over Ireland. And then also would say, you know, I had so many different people in that course, but there was about 3-4 guys and 3-4 girls, right, at the end of the day. And about 3 weeks in, one of the girls, women, right, rather than putting them in any particular category, but one of the women said to me, why are you spending so much time on the guys and not the girls? And I didn't get the tone from what she was saying. I just went, because they're not funny. You know, it was such an automatic response that I was just going, they need all the fucking help they can get. The girls are funny as fuck. I've no problem with the girls. I said, I'm really worried about these guys because they're about as far away from funny as you can get.
Right.
And we have only got 3 weeks left. And she went, oh.
Brilliant.
I thought you were like, you know.
Up sticking with the lads.
yeah, you're a bit man and then man stuff. And I was going, no, this is all about me getting these people funny. And I have no problem with you guys. You guys are funny and fast and quick and natural and all the rest. But these guys are so far away from themselves. Because your man was so used to being pretty. He just used to walk into a room. And then he suddenly had to talk, and he was an idiot.
Fucking brilliant.
He was terrible. He was like, hello, it is I. And everyone and he was expecting applause for just being there.
What, did Tesco?
Yeah, and it was like, I loved it, So good-looking people don't always have it easy, Matt. And, you're here to tell why.
Yeah. My question to you, right, is how do you manage, like, as I say to you, doctors and consultants or scientists and people of that, like, to teach them all, like, that's a cacophony of madness.
Yeah.
Like, just to work with them, contain them in that group.
Simplicity. Simpleness. Because let's face it, I can't ever achieve the DNA, scientific, microscopic, petri dish level of understanding and detail a doctor of science could
That
have.
sounds like Colin.
Yeah. Like, Colin in the course,
Oh,
he
you
was
loved him.
amazingly analytical.
Oh, he's deadly.
Like, he's talking about beauty quirks.
Yeah.
And he was there going, so, is that funny? And there was one hand that came up from the back going, sorry, what's a quark? Because it's like, I said, it's the south of the country and they all talk funny, I mean, you haven't a clue, but simplicity, the simple thing is, do you want to do your best? Well, I'll do my best to help you.
Yeah.
And so, if your motivation is to be as good as you can up there, I can facilitate that.
Yeah.
So, I will simply tell you as best and simply as I can how to get there,
Right.
But it'll be because there's a desire, there's a motivation, like even a fucking zombie crawling out of a grave looking for blood has a desire to succeed and achieve what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So the simplicity of it is finding something that they find funny and fanning the flames in it. Like one of the questions I asked Colin at the end was like, did you like it when I suggested that you had the seriousness and posture of an undertaker? And I suggested that he go up and say, hi, I have a master's degree in charisma. And he's like, I got fucking, 85% of me charisma test or something like that.
Yeah.
He said he hated when I suggested what he would say on stage.
He looked like...
But he had to come from where he was coming from.
Yeah.
And I think everyone does.
Yeah, no, you make great suggestions. The same with everyone. And like when you go to fucking seek advice or guides or whatever, you either take or you don't. You can get all the guidance you want, and if it doesn't fit for you...
Well, this again, I would say the way I approach it for most people is I come in with one of those big black sacks, and metaphorically it's full of multicoloured frisbees. And I think it was a Ben Stiller film that he was out playing frisbee with. It might have been something about Mary or something like that, where there was a
In the pool?
there was the kid had special needs.
All right.
Right? They said, let's play frisbee. They went out and he threw the frisbee and it bounced off the forehead of the child. Right? And he goes, okay, maybe we'll play something else. And it's like, it's me with a bin liner full of frisbees of suggestions.
Yeah.
And this is the improv background. So
I love improv.
you might be coming from like, say I'm Matt from the Flats, and I said, what do you do, man? And he goes, I do this Magic Minds podcast. And I go, Jesus, what kind of shite is that? So I go in and start to take all the frisbees out and go, is it like this? Is it like this? Is it like this? And I'd be just bouncing ideas off you. And there might be something that... See, I found that the banter we were having in the workshop was actually the thing that kind of spilled out onto the stage in the end. And it was just finding that and finding a way of kind of just still representing yourself, but finding a way to do it that's very natural and accessible for everybody else. You know, because like this isn't... If comedy was a science, only scientists would do it. Yeah. And comedy would suffer because there was only scientists doing it. Yeah. Any fucker can do comedy. Right. And this is the access all areas part of it. That Number one, if you think you're funny, if people have been laughing at you from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, you might as well be a comedian.
Yeah.
But the first part about this is about learning to laugh at yourself, at your mistakes. And I've had to do that over the years because otherwise I'd go insane, because I would be so irate with myself for not knowing something that I have to laugh. Because otherwise it's laugh or cry, you know. So the sense of humor requires a sense of awareness. You have to be self-aware to be able to laugh at something funny you did yesterday.
Brilliant. That's
and I think that separates us from animals.
Yeah.
So what it ultimately defines human is our awareness. So the presentation of our awareness is our own stupidity.
Yeah.
So it's like, hello, I'm a fucking idiot. And I mean, Schadenfreude, have you heard this? Like, this is what German humour is best described as. It's like laughing at someone else's misfortune, not our own.
Yeah.
So slapstick, for example, if Charlie Chaplin runs full tilt into a wall, it's applause, because like Schadenfreude being a German concept is that German audiences really enjoy when someone else is talking about their difficulty.
Right.
But they don't like being told how stupid the Germans are.
Right.
They don't like them. Whereas the Irish love being told how stupid they are. We collectively enjoy it. We go, oh, sure, we're terrible. We're all alcoholics. It's hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we engage, as you said, we connect with people on a very emotional level, on a human level. When we see them suffer, we go, oh, I'm so glad that's not me. But we laugh because we relate and engage with that experience. And it's even funnier when it's not us then. So it's like Schadenfreude, but with empathy. Do you know what I mean?
Here's a question for you, right, in regards to comedy, and this is nothing to do with the course. This whole kind of politically correct, the cancel culture.
Oh,
let's talk about it.
Oh God, right.
Is it?
Well, I'm a dinosaur, so I should be already cancelled by now, because I probably have said all the worst things already.
Like, isn't people just afraid to say anything? Like, I had a joke that I was going to use. Remember at the start of the podcast, how are you? My name is Matt, and I'm from the flats. The whole gag about the trans.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't want to offend, because I got the skills and things. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But I was really just slagging myself that I was a trans from whatever. But I didn't tell the joke.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to hurt anyone. Do you find that to be a barrier on comedy right now?
Well, I'd say it probably should be. And I think it's probably correctly should be a barrier. Because if you're very good at what you do, just like anything, you know where the boundaries are, you know where the edges are, and you can function quite happily and freely within them. So, yeah, it is a kind of cancel culture, and it is a sort of very kind of eggshell walk. And I mean, you could say that comedy is a very terrifying place to be now, because it's so difficult to be anything but PC.
Yeah.
Whereas, I suppose, like, this is where it comes from. If you're sincere and genuine and honest on stage, people will see that. So if you make a mistake, it's coming from a sincere place. So, you know, and fundamentally they have to like you or love you to enjoy you or laugh at you.
Yeah.
So a huge part of this is having to be yourself and very genuinely yourself up there. That's the first thing. The second thing then is, if they like you, they'll be less offended than if they don't like you. A lot of 25 to 35-year-old guys come into comedy, and the first thing they want to do is 6 rape jokes and, you know, shock comedy, you know, try and offend and attack and genuinely just freak people out by getting their attention. And it's almost like there's an aggression and a violence behind their words, and they want to try and punch that invisible audience in the face.
Right.
Whereas in fact, I mean, you could say I could dedicate the rest of my workshops for the rest of my life to trying to weed that out.
Right.
Because that's just a natural.
Does that come into the workshops? Does that ever?
Oh God! Most of the time, now
Didn't come in hours.
no, it didn't, because a lot of the people in our workshops were more mature, right? I'm not saying older. I'm just saying more mature in terms of like you're not an impetuous, like Matt, for example, who would be Matt Longford would probably be the most impetuous and kind of willing to jump in, but at the same time he's 30, so he's not 25, and he's not going to just come in, shooting off the hip. But it's great when guys do, because I can go, whoa. Turns out 50% of the audience don't like an 8-minute set about you masturbating. Who knew?
Wankers.
Right? Fucking wankers. Whereas
wankers.
Blokes love doing wank jokes. They love it.
Do they?
They do. Oh, sure, look, you can't get through. You just did one, right? You can't get through a day without blokes talking about wanking.
I was just talking about
It's like
innuendo.
It's a bondy
In your
thing.
endo.
In your endo. It's a bondy thing. The blokes go, oh yeah, you'll be fucking bunning your eyes.
Hey.
Right, it's all that, right?
Yeah.
But that's blokey bonding. And like when I
I
asked,
don't know what kind of blokey body. Did you do the circle jerk or something?
what do you mean? Is that not going to happen? I
Fucking
thought
right.
this happened at the end
That's
of all
for
of
the
it.
that's for the deluxe model. You didn't pay for that package.
Oh, that's it. I'm going.
Joint reach
Hey,
around.
on these interviews, I always want to do that. Rip the mic off and walk
you.
away. Like, but so anyway, so you know what I mean? Like guy humor, girl humor. That's another aspect. But like this is all under the PC roof. If that's what I mean about authenticity, it's easier to point at the other than something outside ourselves. And usually it's the single blokes that are doing wank jokes and talking about women in a derogatory way. Because usually it's because they don't have a woman and they're at home pulling themselves off. But the point is, it's like when you point at somebody else, the classic thing is there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, And comedy,
You philosopher.
I know it's all, but it's Jesus. But like, it serves the purpose of actually, especially in stand-up, that an example is our good friend Eric.
Yeah.
Right, he was there. He came in with a bit of material. Said he was in the canteen and he met the boss, and the boss says, "Well, what do you think of the day so far?" And he goes, "It's going very well. It's going a lot better than your shirt, right?" And the boss says, "What's wrong with my shirt?" And he said, "Well, it's a bit flouncy, And at the end of that workshop, I said to him, "Listen, Eric, the difference between you pointing at someone's shirt and saying it's suggestively camp is in stand-up, you've to be the one wearing the shirt. You are the subject of mockery.
Punching up rather than punching
Well,
down.
you laugh at yourself. You don't laugh at anyone else. So cancel culture is about me grouping people into they, them, and us. And it's an isolation style of comedy where you're pointing at and mocking others rather than yourself. But if you think if you're doing comedy right, you're talking about yourself and your perspective. So you're the subject rather than someone else being the subject of mockery. Right. You're mocking yourself, you're laughing at yourself. Now, there's been situations where I've been in an audience, and if I decide to take on somebody, or usually I won't take on anyone, but if they take on me and strike 1, 2, and 3, and next thing we're into this conflagration, then I'll go, "What's your name, buddy?" Because chances are it's a guy, right? But, I mean, not to be sexist, if it's a fucking really annoying woman, a woman who's a gift from God and every woman is sacred, but this particular woman is a pain in the fucking hole, right? And I have to go, "Madam, sir, whoever you are, what's your name?" Right? And they say, "Dymphna." And I go, "Dymphna, how are you, Dymphna? What's the crack?" And it's like, this is before I have the argument with them now. They've done strike 1, 2, and 3. Right? They've annoyed me, they've interrupted me, they beat me to my punchline, and I've very few of them. So I'm like really annoyed with them. So I go, "Dymphna, is it? How are you doing? Are you from here, Dymphna?" Right? Because now I'm introducing Dymphna to the audience, right? Now we're putting Dymphna and me on an equal level. So I go, "Dymphna, are you from around here?" "No, I'm from Cologne." "Oh, you're from Cologne. I heard that's the gay capital of Germany." And then you go, so I've got bit of experience of doing gigs in Cologne, so I can have a bit of banter about that. So that's an avenue I can go on if I want to. No, I'm living in Ireland. All right, and what do you do? Are you on the dole? You know, chances are they're not in the dole. Chances are they're working in that other economy that we sustain in our country for American people to earn lots of money, right? Yeah. So LinkedIn, Google kind of world, right? Oh, you're from there. Brilliant, right? So that's even now I'm narrowing the field and I'm able to talk specifically to, oh, you're one of them. Now I've got a name. Now I've got, you do this. So we're into a demographic here that we can actually, people can start categorizing, right? Yeah. And it's like, so now that we've established you're definite, you're 33, are you single? Is this your partner? You know, let's find out the status and that level. Oh, no, so you're by yourself. All right, no friends, definite, no. Okay, well, thanks for coming, Dymphna. So now we're already kind of going, right, so it's just you and me now, Dymphna. And the biggest thing is, I could just attack Dymphna from the get-go. But then I would attack everything Dymphna represents. Right? And Dymphna could represent, you know, the trans community. It could be like her pronouns are its pronouns are different to mine. Their pronouns are different.
They, them, whatever.
But if I want to diss Dymphna, I have to get onto a personal level with Dymphna and I go, now, I'm not speaking to everybody that represents the person, like, you know, it may be Dymphna's ginger, right? I'm not dissing all gingers. Dymphna, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot, and we've wasted 10 minutes on you, Dymphna, and we could be getting on with the show. So do we want to, by round of applause, do you want to get on with the show, or do you want to listen to Dymphna? And the chances are everyone just wants to get, not do you all want to listen to me, but it's, you know, so.
I love them parts of comedy where they, like, Hugh does a Paul Smith, you know, the Liverpudlian lad. He just goes down and he writes.
Oh, he's amazing. He's no material. He just people. Literally, but he, like, I would say that's very similar to the way I was when I was hosting improv shows. I was more, and I still am more interested in the audience than in anything I have to say.
I'd love to do more of that now, actually. I'd love to do improv.
Yeah, improv is great fun.
Because I went to see it in, before I done the show, me and my pal Debs went to see one in the Duke, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I do not. I must have missed you, or were you there?
I was there seeing it, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, I didn't know.
Like a groupie.
Yeah.
Funny in your own.
God, yeah, that was ages ago.
That was deadly. That was when I signed up for the first one, and I just wanted to go and see, like, what it was about. And
you were checking me, you were stalking me then. Yeah, just to go, hang on, does this guy know what he's doing?
Yeah.
But to me, that's such a hoot. That is like improv. I do that every Wednesday in the Duke off Grafton Street in Laughter Lines is the name of the group. And man, yeah, like the Josephine McCaffrey runs Laughter Lines, right? She's just decided to write a musical, the Mattress Mick musical. So I've just been on to the guys in the improv group to say, what night you go? Will you just tell me? Are we buying tickets together? I don't want to be sitting by myself, you know, to go and see Mattress Mick the musical. So
she wrote it.
She wrote the whole thing, the songs, everything. So I'm going to see that. That's in 2 weeks' time.
Deadly.
And, you know, sure, we have to go. We're in the group that she's in, so we have to buy tickets. And then I know someone, like I was doing, like, so I ended up doing a few sketches with News Check. I don't know if you know these guys, but they do loads of sketches. And they got the improv troupe in to do a few sketches. Then they asked me to do a few more sketches. Then I got more people in to do the sketches. And so there's loads of sketches. And I met one of these actors, proper, like one of those proper actor types, right? And Gemma from Mullingar is cast as Mattress Mick's sister.
Right.
So I met Gemma doing improv yesterday. They do improv just at Crossguns Bridge in Hedigans. Anyway, in Fibsbury, yeah. And they do improv there every Saturday afternoon.
And can anyone go to that?
I think you could. I think there's a course, and then they continue the course by doing.
I'd love to do it. I think that's something else I might do.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, let's put it this way. It's like improv is kind of, you can do a course in improv very easy, but it's difficult to kind of get a regular gig doing improv.
Yeah.
So whereas I think there's a guy called Stephen, and he runs workshops, and the Bernard Shaw, he does something there on a Saturday. So that's as much information I have on that. But but it's improv is great fun.
It's good crack.
My Uber comedian is someone who does a couple of years, maybe 3 years of improv, then does 3 years of stand up, and then you put them on stage.
Yeah.
So that they've got all the skills to riff off Divna, as well as having good material.
Yeah.
But just be able to react and respond in the moment. So here's the interesting thing. Tony from down the road, Jenny from the block, Tony from down the road, he was saying he bumped into you, and he gave me great feedback about what you said about the course, because Tony had done the course as well. Yeah. And you said, look, it was a hoot, it was brilliant, but I don't know if this is the hat I can wear all the time. And I'm fascinated, because therefore, was it a blast to do? Was it like a parachute jump that lasted 6 weeks before you hit the ground? And did you get anything from it, or are you going to do it again? Or what benefit did you get from it? Other than going over a waterfall with a scientist and a posh guy from Wicklow?
I'm meant to be asking the questions here.
I know, but I'm just curious.
I absolutely loved it. I loved the course, but you know me from after speaking to me before they did the course last year. I go into something with the intentions.
Why?
I know what I'm going in for.
Well, what were your intentions?
What were my intentions? To get me home. Have a wank. That's all single men do.
Do some rape jokes.
Do some rape jokes. I went in for the reach around. I thought it was a happy ending at the end of the course.
Yeah. Where's the circle jerk?
Yeah, fucking hell. This is not going to suck itself. So no, I went into it because I wanted to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I wanted to get into, being comfortable with just playing. You've seen the great difficulty I had being myself. Because I stood there as a public speaker, and we're going to talk about feelings and emotions.
You had your frame. It was like you'd done ballet for years. You had your frame, you were ready, and you were about to present. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I want you scratching your balls with one of your hands in your pockets.
Yeah, right.
And just be all a bit more loose.
So I've been practicing for years. I lived in I'm not originally from the flats. That's the joke about the trans. I came from a house, now I live in the flats. No offence to anybody. I don't fucking like to hurt or harm anyone. But I tried to get away from that, and I went in, I've done a degree, done another one, done this course, done professional speaking, I've done years of training to be this man that works in the hospital. And then I go and do a comedy course, fucking.
And I kept pulling the threads.
Yeah.
And unraveling.
And then I'm cunt this, cunt that, fuck this. And then you're like, no, you're going too far over. I'm like, oh, you prick.
Pull the wheel back again.
I'm like, make your mind up. And I loved it because I seen how many masks I wore. All these masks, all these fronts in front of people.
See, now, you call them masks, right? It sounds like, to me, when I hear mask, it's a phrase that I've heard used before. And to me, I struggle with it because I don't understand it. To me, a mask is almost like an entire personality.
I hide behind it.
To me, I would have thought you had training rather than masks. And I was trained to present myself this way.
But there's an insecurity behind it.
Well, to me, it's like, but that's not to say that we're having the crack coming up here in the van and sitting here.
Yeah.
That it's not that you don't have that other personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a mask would suggest that you're just the person you present in
know,
work.
When I'm public speaking, I'm alluding to that I'm a professional speaker, and I'm of note that listen to me. I know some stuff. You know what I mean? I hide behind my academia, hide behind my books and all. But your course got me to be Matt from the flats that if you want to talk about deep meaningful shit, I can do that as well. But I can also talk about having a wank or doing such and such and such. So I love that side. The only conflict I had was making jokes, because some of the jokes I was putting myself down. I've done a lot of work on myself over the years, and I don't think, like I said, I was ugly as a kid. I don't think I was ugly as a kid. I used it.
Right.
They're old jokes. my mates are better looking at me. I used to say that because I really thought they did. Now I don't, because they're all in bits now. Anyway, see the state of them.
I asked one of them on the way out, are you the good looking guy he was talking about? And he went, no, it's the other fella.
I'm not going to give any names here, right? But this one fella, this friend of mine, he was out on a night out. I was out there last week with him. I stayed for 2 hours. They were up in Devitt's pub, I think Devitt's, yeah. And it was getting carnage. And I saw him out of here.
Yeah.
He ended up going back to his gaff. Doesn't live far from you. Lives very near you, actually.
Right.
With a couple of women. And one of them was a lesbian.
Ah, come on.
And he converted her.
Ah, come on. Look, I mean, I can't even convert the ones that don't need converting.
Like, I can't even fucking convert porridge into fucking breakfast. But that's what he was up against. That's the kind of mates he's had, right? And I grew up with that. And I don't think, like, I'm good or ugly or good looking or whatever. And I just found that joking part hard to do because I go into skills and I do talks with love, kindness, and I done it for the reason of I wanted to get very uncomfortable and get used to playing and learning more about myself. And I got it, and I got it in abundance. Will I do it again? I don't know, but I have great confidence that
Well, has that changed the way you would speak professionally?
Oh,
Are you
yes.
gone back to the
No,
frame now?
no.
Are you gone back to the whole below?
No. You should have seen me. I done a workshop. I run a workshop.
See, to me, this is the biggest thing. It's like that can bleed into what you do.
It's exactly what I went.
Better.
I got.
If you never do stand up again, and I hope you don't.
I got exactly.
If it's bled into that, now tell me about that bit. Like.
So I went into the workshop the next day, and my young one even said to me, I ran a workshop the next morning. I had to bounce early because I was doing my own workshop the next morning.
Yeah.
My movement and mindfulness, where I talk about my story. I was playing. Like, I was talking, I was more animated, and I was telling the story. I really was embodying it. I was.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Like, you noticed this yourself?
My daughter even noticed it.
Was your daughter there as well?
My daughter comes to my workshop. She works with me.
Right.
So she comes around me. She does the.
And what did she say to you?
She's saying she said, I noticed a difference in you. I could see a difference in you. And I was.
And did you feel the difference?
1,000,000%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah, I've done more stuff since that.
And have you lost it? Have you gone back to the old method? Or have you kind of
I'll embody that now. So I'm doing an open mic in my pal's pub down here, all my friends. I've done like a spoken word to prepare for your one.
Yeah.
Now the next one I'm gonna do, me and my mate are gonna go up and sing songs. I've never sang before. So we're gonna do Bill Withers' Lovely Day. He's gonna play the guitar and I'm gonna sing.
You're gonna do the day.
Yeah. But again, it's that uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
So when I stand in front of whatever big corporate gig, I'll just be Matt. I'll embody all my education, I'll embody all my learning, the comedy course, I'll bring it all, I'll be armoured.
Yeah. See, I occasionally have to do lectures in third level universities, and I always think I'm supposed to go back into that. Hello, as accustomed as I am to public speaking, hello. And I realised the best formality is informality. You know, the actual best way, the more formal the setting, the more informal I become. And that I actually go, how are you?
Yeah.
You know, like at my mother's eulogy, a full church, the priest there, being broadcast on the interweb, you know, all that. And the first thing I went up was just like, how are you? Totally. And the how you changed it. It took the formality out of it. It's like,
I write that in emails.
Yeah.
Because I was in the hospital. Hi, I hope this email finds you well.
Dear Margaret,
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Now in any email, anything I send out is, how are you?
Yeah.
It's Matt here. How are you getting on? So I can do it somewhat. So what the course done was to help me really embody that, to let go of Matt from the NRH, the professional speaker. We know you can do that, as you said.
Well, here's one. Just before the course, you sent me a 5-minute clip of the 5 minutes that you'd worked on for nearly a week or two, or at least a week, for that NRH
Valentine's
Ball, right? If you were doing that now, would it be any different? That 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
What would you do that'd be different? Like
I would,
3 things.
I'd be me. I'd be more comfortable. You know, I wouldn't be more worried about what they think. Because I walked out I'm going to talk to a football club, they're going for a championship, and I'm going to use that as an example. I walked out into the lobby and my legs started to shake and all, and I used my mindfulness and I just watched. I went, look at this, your thought screen and physical response. But what started off is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm in a hospital, these are all academias, and I'm still mathing the flats. And I mean, yeah, you are. So I now know I can stand in front of 400 people in a hospital and talk, whatever, or stand in front of a comedy. They're the same thing. Exact same thing.
Just you.
Just me. And just, as I said to you from week 2 or whatever, this is not stand-up comedy, this is stand up and be you. Stand up and be me.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned.
I couldn't believe you guys. I said, Jesus, he's on to me.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't believe how quickly you busted me on that. Going, this, like, I could just give you the ABCs of, like, do this, do that, write this, write that, say that gag, and then you'll be fine. I find anybody who does want to do this workshop really wants to actually move closer to themselves in some way and be more honest up there and do a very good job. And I suppose the thing that I do on my course, a lot of people don't even see that. But I'm working on bonding the group, first of all, so there's support and feedback from everyone. And then secondly, is like, the best and most successful comedy is stuff that's coming from yourself, but also you're better when you're more yourself. In any situation. Yeah. It's not just comedy. Comedy, that's like a little 6-week kind of plunge into ice water type thing, but what it does is it wakes you up and goes, oh, I'm me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, Jesus, and look, there's a room full of people applauding me from just being me.
Yeah.
And what you said about, like, Born on Ugly Tuesday and all that kind of stuff, that was so funny to us because you were so self-deprecating. And it's great that you said that you don't think that at all.
No. I used to. I could have bought my children pictures. I thought I was the ugliest kid in the world. I was horrible. I was told I was useless. I was a scumbag that amounted to nothing in life. And I used to think that. So then me getting up and joking about it now, I was like, oh. So I could change. I could go do comedy. But do I really want to be a comedian? I want to do what you do. I want to teach. I want to share the message. I want to talk about the love of God.
Pay it backwards.
Yeah, I want to pay it backwards. And I love that pay it backwards. I used to say pay it forward, but backwards is a lovely one. So I'm doing what you do, but I'm just using a different car. Do you know what I mean? I want to teach.
To me, I would say probably the best way of actually, I suppose what we're talking about here is self-acceptance, of being yourself and being okay with who you are. And it's like, I think that begins with the ability to laugh at yourself, right? And when you were saying, oh, Jesus, I was born on Ugly Tuesday, and I was, like, it's amazing what you said there, that, like, I'm the same. I was at a gig with Jason Byrne, and Jason Byrne asked people who were coming to the gig, could they bring childhood photos? I couldn't find one. I actually went online and Googled goggly-eyed, cross-eyed kid, and I brought a fake picture to the gig because I didn't have any.
Wow.
So I will still laugh about that I look like a geography teacher when I'm up on stage, and all that. But really, I think it's about, there's a vulnerability and people are drawn to it when you're able to laugh at yourself. And if you're able to laugh about those things, you have to be at some level where you're okay laughing about it, which means you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the subjects I'm asking people to present, like Colin, to say, would you stand up there and say you got 11 out of 10 on the charisma-ometer? You go, no, I don't want to say that, because I don't want to mock the fact that I'm, like, I want to come across real friendly. And by the time he did, do you remember, like, I asked him to camp it up? And he was like, look, I'm a straight man, what are you asking me to do? And I was going, I don't know, maybe. He said, could you give me a different word? And I said, everyone gave him loads of different words. Be creative, be animated, be ways. And I went, what about flambeau? And you can see him going, oh, I don't know what to. But I ended up, it was almost like a confrontation to just challenge him to say, you need to be more animated on. You are the show now. And I mean, it's encouraging people to just maybe be a bit turned up to 11 version of yourself in different parts, but just be happy talking about something that you're okay talking about. That's the key. You're not so vulnerable that you're talking about something that you're not able to protect yourself from. But it's presenting something that you've been vulnerable about and now you're okay to share and laugh about.
And it's a great sign, right? There's a great saying, or I can't even remember it right now, but if you're able to laugh about the things that you used to cry about at the time, it means that you've done work on it. There's an acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And my mate tested me with that. He hadn't seen me in years.
Yeah.
And he started listening to the podcast and all. He goes, "You listen to the podcast and you wrote a book and all." He goes, "Fuck me, man, you're amazing." He says, "I'm not surprised that you were kiddie fiddled." Right?
Jesus.
Right?
Right. And he's throwing, like, that's like the frisbee. He's throwing that frisbee at you and he's waiting for the response, you might
And
say.
the two of us were in tears.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do with that? You just laugh at it.
Yeah.
And that's like the likes of Paul McCormick that was on it, that does, we do holotropic, and he's huge years of studying of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis. He's the best at dark comedy. He's called the Sacred Clown on the holotropic breathwork when he goes, because he's able to joke about those things, and he does it so well. He
can find a way.
He does everything with great kindness and everything.
But I mean, that's the kind of level to me of like, I was about to say that I can't laugh. I don't have jokes yet, other than with mates and stuff like that, about both my parents dying. Yeah. And I was going to say, well, it's very hard to get death into comedy. It isn't really. Like, the best version was, I was emceeing one night. I was I buried my dad, say 2 years ago, or maybe something like that, 2.5, maybe just in 2020 after COVID, right? Or during COVID. So weirdly, my phone rang when I was starting the show one night, and I was like, who was that? And I was about to name and shame whoever it was, and it was fucking me, right? My phone was over there, and it was also the DJ because I was plugged into his PA system. So I went like, Jesus, I said, who's one? And of course the audience heard it before I did, because that was just a distant noise. But to them, they were like, "This fucking phone going off. What kind of ramshackle unprofessional operation is this?" So I went over and I went, "Oh Jesus!" I said, "It's my mother. That's weird. She always rings when I'm doing shows." And I got a few ahs from the audience, and I went, "Strange, because she's been dead for 7 years." Right? And it was the first time I ever mentioned the fact that she was dead.
Yeah.
But it found a way when I was okay to say it, And people were going, fuck. And I got such a reaction from it. I went, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you thought you'd be fucking funnier by now, And she leaves me all these messages going, have you thought about getting a real job? And so I managed to, so it was like the voice from somewhere else. Whereas there's a guy, and I probably should leave you with this. I know you probably want to wrap up, but the best example is, and this is, it's just funny, right? But it's not stage funny, and it kind of speaks to a little bit about the PC world and stuff, where you should buy all your laptops and, but there's a very funny guy from a part of the country that is known for having a lot of the travelling community spend time there, right? And he had this bit that's very funny, right, about he bought a new house, but the only problem with the house, and there's nothing wrong with it, beautiful area, great schools, the kids, neighbours, everything, brilliant community, no problems at all, but after about 1 o'clock in the morning, just when he's about to go to sleep, the house is haunted by a member of the travelling community.
Oh, fucking brilliant.
So there's a traveller ghost living in his house, right?
Up the travellers.
And, of course, immediately, it actually captures the stigma that settled society has about travellers.
Yeah.
That kind of, oh my God, the very idea of a traveller in my house, right? Yeah. So it taps into that. Taps into that kind of primordial fear of the other unknown, right? And then of course there's also so he's having a cup of tea, it's like, yes, we want to put 2 sugars in that, and he just puts on
brilliant, isn't it? Like that, I love the abstractness of that. That's
really
bonkers.
It's and I'd say he could do that to a room full of travellers, but he couldn't do it to a room full of settled people, because they just couldn't laugh at it.
Yeah.
And he said he's tried that in Dublin.
Yeah.
And Dublin are much more woke, and they are aware of what you can and can't say.
Yeah.
And they understand that they don't want to be seen to be laughing at the cost or expense of other people. But he said he can do it in Wexford, no problem.
I'll tell you one story. There's a fella in work, and I interviewed Jim Gilson from the hospital, and he's married to a black woman, and they've got black kids, whatever that. And he was talking about his kid one day being in school, and this someone bullying him or something. He says he doesn't like me because I'm black, and he goes, "No, that's not the case." He goes, "He probably just thinks you're a prick." It's not, and you're black. He says, that's separate. He says, you are probably just being a prick, were you? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, it's not because you're black, though, is it? He goes, just because you were being a prick that day. And it was lovely the way he could say that. And it wasn't about race, or it wasn't about the kid being black or whatever. And I just loved that they can, actually, that we're not afraid to say something, because
the danger is you would, like, and especially as a kid or as a parent, if I'm speaking to a child like that, if it's my child, I mean, obviously you want to instill them with all the best wisdom and preparation that you could possibly have for life, because we both know life is difficult, right? So to be able to distinguish, separate and isolate the actual fact is, no, it's because you're a prick.
Yeah, I love it. But even in the hospital, I remember walking into the office with my manager there, and she was telling someone, there was a doctor, one of the doctor was black, he was the only black guy in the room. And he left, and she said, my manager came back and said, did somebody say something earlier? And I said, yeah, the doctor's there, the black one. And everyone reacts. It's just a description. The man was black. I couldn't explain whether he was tall or small. I said, that's the only thing I knew about him.
The alternative is, you get to say, well, he was a tall gentleman with a tight haircut, and he wore squeaky shoes. Yeah. And it's
it's just a description. But I felt like I just took a shot in a handbag.
No, but I still don't know if that's PC or not, to be honest. I mean, in England, in a multicultural, like London, for example.
You can't say person of colour.
I don't know if you could say that. See, this is it. And there's a sincerity and a genuineness to this, that I don't know pronouns and I fall over them. And I've had trans people in workshops, and I've fought. And every week they're practicing their material. Every week I'm practicing their pronouns.
Yeah, no, I had a trans girl here, Luca Keaton, and she said to me from the get-go, and it's brilliant, just like I interviewed a lady from the travel community, if you say anything within this interview, don't worry. I know your intention is not to hurt or harm.
Exactly.
So me describing someone as being black, as being tall, as being small, I mean no harm by that. I'm not slagging. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll say that because...
what would a kid say? It's who gave you the lollipop? The big black guy.
Yeah. He didn't say anything discriminating about him, didn't say he was good or bad, or I hope he wouldn't say it to hurt his feelings. And I think that's the way we should be armed. Come here, we can fucking talk all day. Where can people find you? Workshop, when is the next one? I've had people ask me, when is it on? What's going on? When is your next workshop? How can people work with you? Or
would you believe my next workshop is online in Kerry? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. I started doing online workshops a while ago, so I'm doing a Kerry workshop where I'm meeting them once a week online, and then I'm going down and we're going to rock a festival.
Right.
So they're actually on stage, and on Bank Holiday June, that's starting in a week or two.
Deadly.
So that's a remote way of doing it. So if they can't come here to Dublin, I can go there and then eventually go down and do a weekend or whatever. So that's starting in a week or two. I'm on You Talk Funny on Facebook. I'm Ciarán.comedy on Insta. And I have a website, but it's not up to date. And that's youtalkfunny.com. So you'll see the next course on my website is starting in 2019.
At least you're consistent. You're consistent.
Yeah, it reflects my enthusiasm to do another one, because it takes so much out of me, because I give a shit.
You do.
I give a shit, and sometimes I'd love to not give a shit and turn this into a t-shirt printing company, but I can't.
No.
It is an investment for everybody, and it's an investment for me. So
I loved it.
I'm probably going to, I'd love to say I'll be doing the next one in 5 years' time. But chances are I'll probably do one very soon. Yeah. So if you're interested, get in touch. And if you're not, you're probably not that funny anyway.
I would highly recommend it. I love the course. Ciarán gives so much. He genuinely cares, and that's what I love. That's why I went into it. Like you helped me with the NRH talk, and then you done that like off your back. You were brilliant, and I thank you for that.
Well, the best thing I ever heard was you coming up and saying that, like, now when you're going in, you're just a bit more natural, a bit more loose, and a bit more you. I mean, shit, that's mission accomplished. Never knew that.
Deadly. Right, so there you go. If you want to work with him, give him a shout.
You talk funny.
You talk funny. I talk funny. I'm from the flats. Look, thanks very much for listening to the podcast. All my episodes are sponsored by my old pal Noel Riley from Rooney Media Graphics. Need any graphic design, any print work, anything like that, give him a shout. Lisa and Sandra from Shannon's Hope Line, give them your support. Do amazing work here, grassroots mental health stuff. We also have the Liberty Soup Run, and that's it. I don't think I've plugged anymore. I've got some workshops coming up. Check me out on social media. Share this with family and friends. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Anything you said today. As I said, my spiritual.
This is dedicated to all the trans people out there, in case there's any problems. Yeah,
I discriminate against nobody. I'm all about unity. I love human
yeah,
beings.
it's not because you're ginger. It's because you're a prick.
I am part of those groups. Like, I'm like being black, like being from the travel community, like being gay, like being the trans. Like, back in the 80s, I got a horrific life. I know pain. I got beaten up just for being a fat little ginger kid. Right? So, anyone out there suffering, I feel your pain. Just don't spread it. Spread love and kindness. You up the flats. Thanks very much. Have an absolutely whopper day. Mind your little self.
I will run, I will climb, I will soar. I'm undefeated. Oh, jumping out of my skin, pull the cord. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, the past is everything we were. Don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is stars. It's not until you fall that you fly. When your dreams come alive, you're unstoppable. Take a shot, chase the sun, find the beautiful.